Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first the podcaster. I'd like to welcome Fergus Keating from Guns and Yellow Ribbons. How are we doing, Fergus?
Very well. Honoured to be your first podcaster. Thank you very much, Charlie.
You're welcome, mate. Glad to have you. We'll talk a bit about football later, but if we can just delve into how you become involved with casting and the Arsenal. What's your sort of background?
Well, as you can hear from the accent, I'm Irish originally. I moved over to London in the late 80s, and I'm now married and settled in Essex and everything else. I've been in various forms of sales, basically talking to people since God was a boy. And even, I think my parents were in the pub trade, so I was talking to people at 7 or 8 years of age, like, serving pints behind the bar in Ireland. Getting involved in podcasting. Well, getting involved in podcasting is, it happened. A friend of mine, Mike Gongalves, who set up Guns and Yellow Ribbons with me, he was a blogger, and I was doing stuff with Arsenal Fans Forum, which you're a member of as well. And I was trying to get some sort of platform to, not necessarily, it's never for money or anything like that. It was just it's an enjoyable social way of doing things and just having a bit of fun and a bit of a laugh. And I got a message from Mike saying, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. I said, well, funny that. I was thinking of trying to do something with YouTube or do so. I don't know. So we had a chat within about, I would say within about 24 hours, we had a website set up. We had graphics organized from some graphic designer in New York, and it just went mad. And then I started with a Skype headset in this room here, and we done our first ever episode. I think it was around October, November 2017. We done audio for quite some time, and then about 18 months ago, we progressed via this very platform, actually, StreamYard, which have been brilliant. Progressed onto video, and we do probably 1 or 2 episodes a week. We've got a panel of panelists. There's generally myself as the host, and then we'll have Old Man Trevor, our Big Steve, Dan Potts, and we cross over all the. Anybody who follows any of the Arsenal podcasts, we type a whole jump on and cross over each other's. It's a community. It's as you said before we came on live. You like doing this because it's relaxing. It's an outlet, and in this current environment, boy, do we need it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So whereabouts in Ireland are you?
Originally, I'm from the centre of Ireland, a place called Athlone. And I used to follow, before I followed the mighty Arsenal, I still do keep an eye out on Athlone Town FC. My uncle was lucky enough, God rest his soul, to play for Athlone Town. He was a goalkeeper, and he ended up playing against Standard Liège in the Cup Winners' Cup in 1983. And I actually was there for the League Cup final that we won in Dundalk. I was hoping to get there this year for the Arsenal game, but because of all the restrictions, we couldn't go.
Well, that's the same all round, isn't it? Athlone, is that north or south?
It's south. It's in the Republic.
Yeah. And you come over to the UK in 88, you say?
88, yeah. I came over I left school. I had the choice of going to college / uni or come over here and move with my parents, who worked for Whitbreads, and they came over as a pub managers. And I decided to come over, and I started on £2.31 an hour. There you go. Now, who would work for £2.31 an hour now?
Well, believe it or not, going back in the years, my first wages were £2 a day.
Jesus. Well, you are a lot older, so you know.
Yeah. So where did you stay when you come over? Where was your first port of call in the UK?
I was always London, always in and around London. So we were Marble Arch originally, then Hampstead, and then I'd done a few spells in Surrey and Harrow sort of area, and then eventually moved to East London, Hackney, and then North London, and now out here in sunny Essex, the centre of the universe.
Yeah, and is that where you're gonna live the rest of your life out in Loughton?
Unless I get very rich and I can have a place out in Spain or somewhere like that. You never know.
I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah.
So what got you involved with the Gunners then?
It was when I met my wife. She had a little boy who I went on to adopt. He was big into the Arsenal, and her brother was also into the Arsenal. So I used to keep an eye on the scores, but also I was selling at the time, as I said. I was selling cars, and it was a good way to talk to people and just break down barriers and go, oh, who's playing at the weekend? And oh, I saw Chelsea have lost, or I see Tottenham are winning. I wasn't really hugely into it. It was just a vehicle to help me sell a vehicle, really. And it just gradually got more and more and more and more. And I just love the whole social aspect of it all. I love the noise, the crowd, the sound, the tribal side of it. I'm not into the nasty side of it, but I do like just the adrenaline of the whole thing. When you get that last minute winner, or when the build up to a big game or stuff like that. So that's how I got into it.
So what do you think about at the moment? Obviously, COVID is intervened, but there seems to be a lot of like results that don't seem to be going how they should be going. With no fans in the grounds, and there's a lot more away wins than what there are home wins.
Yeah, well, to be honest, when you look at the fixtures, and you might look at like Chelsea, Man United, or Man United, Chelsea. I don't know what it was at the weekend. I really don't care. It doesn't make any difference. It's just whether you're going to see, Man United themed dressings on the chairs over Chelsea dressings on the chairs. I really don't think there's any home advantage or away advantage anymore. I think the players find it difficult. If you ever watch, I don't know if you've watched it with or without fake noise, but if you watch it without the fake noise, yeah. When you watch it without the fake noise, you can hear everything that's going on, and you could imagine if somebody's having a bad game, pick a player, Harry Kane maybe, or Pogba's having a bad game. The crowd might get on the back and they might lift the game, and I don't find that pressure's there for them. And the adrenaline, they're performers at the end of the day. Yes, they're sportsmen, but they're entertainers and elite sportsmen who are used to entertaining by playing sport, and they're not getting the buzz of it, and I think that's having a huge influence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, if I'm honest, it's boring with no fans in the ground. But I do think the likes of us with the Arsenal, that because there's no fans in the ground, I mean, I think Ozil was a scapegoat with the fans, and when he went, it sort of moved on to Willian a bit. But because there's no fans in the ground, there's no pressure when they're playing.
There's an argument to be saying that there's lack of pressure, and the lack of pressure. Yeah, the Ozil situation, I just kept out of, if I'm honest. Willian, I thought, was a good bit of business. It may work or may not work out. I think the guy who come under the most pressure over the whole thing is Granit Xhaka, because that started before fans were kept out of the stadium, and has probably continued. He has improved, and he's probably benefited a lot from not having fans there. So, because when he has a bad game, we're not on his back.
Yeah, I think after he had his problems with when he threw the shirt and the captain's armband on the floor, I don't think he done himself no favours in. But I also don't believe any sportsman, no matter what sport you're in, deserves the abuse that he was getting online.
Agreed.
So at the end of the day, they're sports, but they're human.
I thought, if you're looking at the Xhaka incident in particular, I thought he recently came out in the press and said, criticize me for my football, criticize me about my professionalism, or whatever you want. Said, I'm open to that. Said, but as soon as I get my wife, my kids, and their health and well-being involved, that's not uncalled for. And look, you go to work, I go to work. if I make a mistake at work, my wife doesn't get threatened, my kids don't get threatened. So
That's right. Yeah.
I get punished. Maybe I might get challenged, but that's the way it should be.
Yeah. I think you know what people are saying, that you're on this much money, you should be able to take this sort of abuse. But I mean, even lately we've been seeing it with the racial um, online slurs. I mean, what is wrong with these people? I just can't make it out. I mean, it's madness.
Charlie, they're all very brave behind a keyboard, and they don't even turn on a camera. People
Yeah.
are brave when they don't. Okay, we're using technology right now to communicate and so on, but you go back 20 years ago or so, we didn't have this sort of level of technology, and we couldn't
No.
communicate
No.
with players and actors and people of influence, politicians, presidents of America. If you wanted to, you can tweet the former president of America and tell him what you think of him or don't think of him. But nowadays people can say what they want, but you have to say it to somebody's face before. And what
Mm.
these people are saying to people's faces,
Yeah.
they wouldn't. Sorry, on a keyboard, they wouldn't dare say it to somebody in their face because they'd be embarrassed
No.
first
No.
and foremost, and two, they'd be scared of the consequences.
Well, it's easy, isn't it? That's the thing.
Mm.
Anybody can sit behind a keyboard and you can communicate with the other side of the world immediately. So someone can write anything on a keyboard to someone in Australia, in America, in China. They're never ever going to get found out. But I do think that with the, as you say, you stayed out of the oval side of it. Getting onto football, I think he put a lot of it on himself, and he never done himself no favours. But likes of Xhaka, I do think he's actually come back a better player.
I think the manager has got the best he can out of him. I don't think he's the best player in the world if you're looking at him in particular, but he has improved. There's no doubt about it.
Mm.
He has improved. And whether
Yeah.
that's having Danny Ceballos, who's had a mayor recently, but having Danny Ceballos alongside him, whether it's having Party occasionally beside him, I don't know. But or else it's just having the manager having faith in him and just saying, you're on my starting 11, and I think it's probably an element of that, um, because he's captain of Switzerland. He must have some qualities somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
Not my cup of tea as a footballer, and I don't like to see him in an Arsenal shirt, but that's my personal view more than observing him as a professional footballer.
Yeah. I think it's like anything, isn't it? If he's playing and he plays well, everyone's behind him. But when he has a bad game, when any player has a bad game, the fans are on their backs. Where do you stand when Emery was manager? What did you think about him?
If you're looking at post Wenger, effectively, it was always going to be difficult to you just to look up the road in Old Trafford when David Moyes is doing fantastic at West Ham. He struggled to take over after a manager who was in place for 27 years. It's not going to be that much different after a manager who leaves after 22 years, but a manager who had so much control, like Fergie, had control over the whole entire management of the club and the running of the club. But I think Wenger is probably a little bit more interwoven into the upstairs as well as the downstairs side of things. I thought Emery looked a good fit. I think, unfortunately, some of the characters that were within the squad and his language barriers, I think, probably didn't help him. I know of some stories that aren't very public, but there was characters who didn't take to him and undermined him. So it didn't help along the way. The guy was quite successful at Sevilla, winning the Europa League 3 times out of 4. And I think he's doing okay at where is he? Real Sociedad, I think. Villarreal, that's it. Yeah, he's doing all right there. So he's obviously a good quality manager. I don't know if he can deal with the big characters. He struggled at PSG, and he struggled with some of the big people at the big names at Arsenal. So, but then again, you got a guy like Arteta who's coming in with no experience, and I think his command of the language, first of all, his knowledge and his understanding of the club. and what it stands for. And I think that will stand him in good stead. I think does he know what his starting 11 is? I don't know. Does anybody? But yeah, Emery I thought was probably the right guy to take over initially. And yeah, it just didn't work out, did it?
I think Emery lost it after the Europa League final in Baku. The team just didn't seem to want to be there. They didn't seem to want to play.
There was a big fight. There was a big fight in the dressing room, Charlie, at half time.
Was there really?
Yeah, there was a big fight in the dressing room. Aubameyang came into the dressing room and Ozil and said that Chelsea were ripping us a new one on the left-hand side. We have to switch to a 4 at the back rather than a 3. And he stood in the middle of the dressing room and didn't take any notice. And he says, I'm the manager. And that was it. They went back out to play, maintaining the formation. And within, I think, 21 seconds or something like that, we were 1-0 down. Aubameyang looked to the bench and turned his eyes up. And then Ozil was substituted not long afterwards. And he chucked his gloves at him and shouted in his face, "You're not my manager." And that's when he lost everything. He lost everything then.
Yeah. I mean, we myself, my 2 sons, and my nephew, we went down to Blackstock Road and watched it in one of the pubs down there. Stayed overnight. Cost us all a fortune. But you know, it is what it is.
What pubs do you use down Blackstock Road?
Yeah, it was the Gunners.
Okay, yeah, I was in the Eaglet on down on the corner of Seven Sisters Road.
Yeah. I mean, when Arteta come in, I said to quite a few people, if we have to have 2 or 3 years, you know, building a very, very good team and finishing mid-table, I don't mind. No manager's going to come in, and you know, or very, very few managers will come in and kick it overnight. But I think, as you said earlier, what is Arteta's starting 11? You know, I don't think even he knows, but you have to chop and change to find out who's who. You know, everyone's an expert. When we lose, everyone's a critic. When we win, everyone's happy. And you're never going to have it both ways. You know, the old saying going about trust the process. I am actually an Arteta in. I think he will do well for us. How do you feel on that?
I support Arteta in the role he's in, and I've said publicly to friends and on the podcast that I'll support him until December of this year. By which stage he'll have 3 transfer windows. He'll have enough time to get rid of the deadwood and the characters that he didn't want in the squad, Guendouzi and Ozil and Kolasinac, etc. And at that point, if it's still a little bit, who's his starting 8 even? And if we're making silly substitutions that you don't know when he's making the substitutions, at that point I would start to question him. I think if we'd went out against Benfica and then lost at the weekend, I think there would have been an awful lot. I know lots of friends of mine who were questioning. We've got a tough month coming up next. We've got Burnley away, early kickoff on Saturday, and then we go into Tottenham, Olympiacos, West Ham, Olympiacos, Liverpool, and then it's Easter. So that's a tough run.
Yeah, I've always thought, always said, always will, that winning breeds confidence. And this sort of Thursday, Sunday, I don't mind, because if you win a game, you're going into the next game with confidence. I think the first Benfica game was a very poor game from both sides. And on the second leg, when they scored, like everyone, I thought, we go again. But I think they rallied well, and I think they played really well, to be honest, to end up winning the game. How it will be against Olympiacos, who knows?
I can't call it. I can't call it.
Obviously, would like to win. what would be more important to you? Would it be winning the Europa League or finishing? I think we'll a chance of finishing top six. I don't think we'll get into the top four. But what would you rather win, or what would you rather have? The Europa League Cup or finish in the top four?
I think any fan worth their soul would want a trophy. So I think winning the Europa League, we've got 6 games left. I think, no, 6, 7 games with home and away legs to get to the final. We're a bit of a cup side at the minute, so realistically, the Europa League is achievable. I think some of the opposition is that we could face is quite difficult, but it's possible, and ultimately it gives us the route back into the Champions League, which ultimately will give us more money and attract bigger players. If you're to say to me we're going to finish outside the top four, not win the Champions League, and be in the top six, nah, I'm fine where we are. 10th will do me fine.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, excuse me. Not for the season. Yeah, I mean,
At least we're on camera.
yeah. I mean, I look at it. If we get it, if we don't beat them like us, then we may as well have gone out against Benfica. You know, you've either got to be in it to win it, or it's pointless.
Yes, agreed.
And as you alluded to earlier with his with Arteta's substitutions, I mean, Southampton beat us in the cup, and then we beat them in the league. I think I'd have gone the other way if I was a manager personally. I would have rather beat them in the cup and lost to them in the league.
Yeah, there's a lot of supporters who felt that, but again, winning silverware is always good. But at that point, it was important that we beat Southampton because we then dropped points against, I think it was Crystal Palace, Wolves,
Yeah,
Villa, and that more or less put to pay any chance of top four finish. So,
yeah. How did you feel about the Wolves game? I mean, I thought the first half in that Wolves game was the best first half I've seen us play this year, if not a little bit longer. I, I think the Louise sending off was very, very harsh. The Leno one, I think that was just a split second. You know, he had to make his mind up in that. Yeah, but he had a split second to do it. And yet, a couple of games after I see another keeper do it, he didn't even get a yellow card.
Well, listen, you don't even go to look at the Wolves game. You just have to look at the Brighton West Brom game or the West Brom Brighton game at the weekend with Lee Mason. He was an absolute joke, and it was a mockery to football. And they were calling for him to retire, and I totally agree. And the fact that a process and system that I think that should work correctly in VAR basically just covered his back because he totally completely cocked up.
Yeah.
He gave the goal, and then VAR just gone, "Don't worry, Lee, we got you back." And it just stunk of corruption. If I'm honest, I'm not saying the league's corrupt. Well, I am, but without prejudice comment.
Yeah, but
Allegedly,
it seems to work in every other sport that, I mean, we call it VAR, is involved. It seems to work.
Well, we discussed on our podcast on Thursday night, I think. No, it might have been yesterday, Sunday morning's podcast before the Leicester game. It did, because it came up about the Lee Mason and the difference in the refereeing standard in here compared to in Europe. If you look at Thursday night's game, there was a few incidents where the referee had to refer to VAR. It was done very subtly, and it didn't break up the play. The referee held his ear, and they made a quick decision and got on with it. But we here think that Europe have got it fine and that everyone in Europe loves it. I've been lucky enough to be to a few non-Arsenal football games in Dresden. My daughter lives in Dresden in Germany. and her partner is a huge Dynamo Dresden football fan. And when I go over there, when you could do, I went and saw some of their games, and they are singing FVAR at the at the screen the same as we are.
Yeah.
So they don't like it either.
You know, I mean, I don't think people would mind so much if it was consistent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look at the handball rule at the moment. That's just a complete and utter joke. You know, you'll have a player literally 6 foot away from you, belt the ball at your arm, and it's classed as handball. It's impossible to get out of the way. And there has been some, you know,
it's better
bad
this
decisions.
season. It's better this season than it was the previous season. Before we had COVID, and actually, funny enough, it was just after we played Olympiacos last season at the Emirates. The owner from the Olympiacos team met Mikel Arteta and gave him COVID, and that was the start of us missing the Man City game, and then the world changed the way it was. I was invited to a meeting in the Arsenal boardroom with Chris Foy, a former referee, and also the supporters liaison officer for the Premier League. And they were going around to all the different clubs about different things and asking their opinion, and their supporters clubs, their opinion of the current, as it was then, VAR rules and subsequent proposed changes. And the T-shirt line was actually shown as well. But what was really interesting, Charlie, was they played us back the footage as we saw on TV, but with the audio from all the mic cams and the ref cams, and was Mike Dean is one of the referees who we as Arsenal fans love, and you could just hear them the back and forth talk. There's so much communication going on with them all the time, but it was just interesting to see. And that's where they brought in the T-shirt rule, at least, that because before it was hitting here on the shoulder, and you're going, hang on, that's not really a handball. At least where they got a line, it was deemed better than what it was.
See, I think a few rules that would make the Premier League better, or even all leagues. I think you either say handball is handball, no matter where it hits you on the arm, and that covers everything. There's no arguments in. And I also believe that they should play with 4 linesmen, 1 in each quarter, or each half, both sides. And that way, it would ease the pressure on the linesman. I mean, you see a linesman put a flag up for a ball going out when it's impossible for him to see, you know, who it came off last and whatever. So if you've got 4 linesmen, at least they're running the same amount of line, but there's more eyes on the players themselves. And one thing that really grates me is the way players cheat. You know, a ball will go out, they never touch it last, but they'll shout for it and claim it. You know, and you see rugby on TV. A referee on rugby would just go, and players would automatically walk away. With football, it just seems more like in their face and whatever. And I don't think it's fair on a referee.
No, I get what you see of what you're saying. I don't agree with having 4 linemen or assistant referees or whatever they're going to. I'm going to sneeze in a second. It's catching. But because I don't think the 4th official, as it is at the minute, is really utilised the way he should be. For me personally, the perfect solution would be the 4th official refs the game with the referee on the pitch by sitting there watching the monitor and giving talk back. Or if you are going to have more officials, that's what you do with officials, rather than having these people in a box in Stockley Park looking at a load of screens. It could easily be managed by having them within the stadium. All the technology's there, and I think it could be done. It could be done better. With regards to the comparison between rugby and football, I would have agreed with you until I didn't watch the England game. But apparently it was an absolute shocker with their VAR system and the refereeing in the England-Wales game. Was it England-Wales? Who played it?
Yeah.
It's egg-shaped. I
didn't watch it, but I heard that the same.
But I do agree with you with regards to the respect for the referee and the respect for even the players on the pitch. They knocked 7 bells out of each other for 80 minutes, and then they go and have a pint in the bar. Well, not probably less
Yeah,
so nowadays because
yeah,
they're all very fit, but they all go for a pint in the bar. Where
yeah,
footballers. They play a game of football for 90 minutes, then get on Instagram and take photographs of them lying
yeah.
with their tops off in a dressing room. It's just
I know.
that's what
I
football's
think
not.
that I think the referee should be given more sort of more protection. Maybe start issuing a few yellow cards, for dissent and whatever, because some of it is just like it's embarrassing sometimes. Even as as Arsenal fans, we've had it. We all know Perez used to like to Tom Daly in the area and whatever, and
I was at that one.
I'd rather lose a game than see us get a penalty by cheating.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was at that game against Portsmouth at Highbury, and I was in the Curry Motors box. I got invited as from a client of mine, and I was in the box. It was the first time I've ever been in a box up in the clock end, and I saw him running towards us, and he just, as you say, done a Tom Daly. It was like, really, that's embarrassing, and
Yeah.
everyone went, "Oh Jesus, yeah, yeah." So,
And the thing is, you get the penalty, everyone's going, yeah, but deep down you're thinking, if it was against us, we wouldn't be happy.
no, yeah, I agree. I think there should be a more. What's the right word? Well, honesty, I suppose. Integrity. That's it. There should be more integrity in the game, and I don't think there is as much. So, but then again, you say the referees deserve a bit more respect. Yes, they probably do, but if they want that respect, they got to earn it, and to do what the likes of Lee Mason did yesterday. To be honest, I was actually quite impressed with Dunk that he won. If it was me and I got treated by the referee and his incompetence at that stage, I probably would have walked off the pitch. And for Dunk not to either chin him or give him a load of abuse or whatever, and he even in his post-match interview maintained dignity and maintained decorum when the BBC asked him, "What do you think of that decision?" He said, "I'm
Yeah,
standing out here answering why that decision was made. I shouldn't be the person standing out here.
that's
The
right.
referee
Yeah,
should be." And
I agree.
he's bang on. He's bang on.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Lineker made a good point on that on Match of the Day on Saturday night, saying that, they actually take away the advantage of the team that's been fouled.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
and that's
And
not fair.
the whole purpose of the game is in any of those rules is you protect defenders and you protect keepers from getting injured, but you give advantage to attacking players as long as it's within the laws of the game.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
totally agree.
yeah,
At the end of the day, if you give a free kick away and you're not ready, that's your problem. You shouldn't give the free kick away.
mm, mm.
You
So
know,
can I ask you a question then, Charlie?
of course you can, mate.
So how long have you been doing this podcasting malarkey? And you're a man of a similar age to me. What got you into it?
Well, I've only been doing it a couple of months, to be honest. As I say, my son, my eldest son, he fronts for Claude and the Bansters.
Okay.
They do well on YouTube and whatever. And I always, follow them. I'm on every stream they do, watching, not on it. But and I just sort of got into the idea of talking to strangers, meeting new people. And I started doing this. But what I've done was I've done it under we'll do a podcast under any subject, whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about. And we've done a
Yep.
few. We've done like I was actually brought up in the East End, and the time of the craze and whatever. So we've done 4 or 5 on them. We've done a paranormal one. I've actually got on Friday evening, I've got someone from America who has been attacked 3 times by ghosts, evidently. On
Okay.
Friday night. And I just like the idea of diversifying a bit, and as I say, meeting new people. I've seen yourself in your pod a couple of times, and just doing my own thing, really. I mean, I think COVID has got a lot to answer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it was like Groundhog Day, just getting up and doing the same thing.
Well, as of the 4th of March, it'll be exactly a year since I last went out and left this room to see a client on a business. I've been out to the shops, as we all have, and stuff like that. But yeah, it is very much Groundhog Day, and I'm normally an early riser, start work early. I even used to go out running and bits and pieces, but I think the whole COVID Groundhog Day drags you down, and I'm generally an upbeat, positive sort of attitude sort of guy, but I don't think the strongest minded person in the world hasn't struggled at some point
Yeah.
through this. I'm sure I caught it originally from the Arsenal boardroom that time I was in there, because at the West Ham game I was like a dead donkey. Went into, if that there was no way of proving it back then, because I had loads of symptoms I didn't know about, and I just didn't have a temperature. So otherwise I would have been probably hospitalized. I subsequently go on to lose my taste till about September, October last year. And then December, my mother-in-law, she's 83, was due to come up to us. She lives in the East End. We're Hackney girl, Dalston girl. She was due to come up to us for Christmas, and there was lots in the area out here in Essex, and lots of people we knew had it. So we just said, look, to be on the safe side, let's get tested. And me and the wife both came back positive, even though she had no symptoms, and I had a little bit of a, like what we did earlier. Oh, I might sneeze, but nothing to worry about. It went on from there. That was the 19th of December. We both spent Christmas in bed, didn't have Christmas dinner. I wasn't as bad as the missus, but the missus ended up in hospital for New Year. Done 5 days in hospital, came back out for 10 days, and done 15 more days via the resuscitation ward in Whipps Cross. So she's literally, her first day back since mid-December. Her first day back at work was today. And that on top.
Well, wish you better, mate. Wish you better.
Oh yeah, thank you. She's doing really well, but you hear some of these anti-vaxxers and these people who say it's all a hoax and this, that, and the other. It's really infuriating, and it's also very offensive, because you wouldn't go up to say somebody who's got AIDS, cancer, gone blind, or whatever, and you wouldn't say, "Oh, that's fake. Cancer's fake. AIDS is fake. Whatever."
I know.
So I've said it. You've probably seen it on our podcast before. At the end, I normally make a comment, and I said, look, for 99.9% of us, nothing will really happen. We might get a cold, we might get no symptoms at all, and you might just pass it on to somebody who you care and love about, and knock them out, or even worse. This winter, well, unfortunately, have known a few. So yeah. Not trying to take down, Charlie.
No. I mean, we was not this Christmas, just gone the Christmas before. We was out in Spain, and I was really ill from Christmas Day for about 4 weeks. Couldn't move, headache, bones ache, blah, blah, blah. But then you just thought it was made for whatever. And the wife was ill as well. So we may have had it. We'll never know.
I think there was a lot of people in the early part of last year and the end of the previous year. My wife is a nurse in a doctor's surgery, and she said she'd never had so many people coming in complaining of flu, breathing difficulties, this, that, and the other. And it transpires it probably was an element of COVID coming through at the time, and we just didn't even know what it was. So
I think there's a couple of problems with it at the moment. Is on the first wave, I think the worst thing the government done was said it doesn't affect the 18 to 40s. And personally, we never really knew anyone that had it or sadly passed away from it. But the last wave, everyone knew someone. I mean, we've just lost my mother-in-law, buried her 2 weeks ago. through COVID. And we know people that have had it, fans had it. So, and I think when you see these idiots out and about and not worried about it, I mean, we haven't been out for literally a year. We haven't seen our kids, our grandkids, for two reasons. One, we don't want to catch it. But two, if we've got it, I don't want to pass it on to them.
Yeah.
So we're being responsible. But there's so many idiots out there that think, we're not going to get it and we're immune. And I do think that once the children go back to school next week, there's going to be another wave.
I hope not. I want to see. I want to see an exit. I want to see. I got very excited about the roadmap, knowing that the dates weren't set in stone, but it just gave an indication that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know if you listen to Talk Sport very much, but Jermaine Defoe, a player I didn't particularly like many years ago, but what he did for was it Bradley? Can't remember the young chap's name. What he did for him.
I remember the young child. Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, and he was on Talksport talking to Jim White, and he said, there's crap days around at the minute. It's difficult for everybody, but it will get better. These days don't always stay. And I thought it was really poignant the way he said it. I'm surmising what he said, but I thought that was good. And getting those dates of saying June 21st, it just gave you a little bit of hope that we can. I've got grandkids. I want to see my grandkids. I want to be able to travel again. I want to be able to go to football. I want to be able to go to a pub for a pint and meet my mates.
I think every man I've ever met or seen everyone wants to go to the pub for a beer. Most men do anyway. So what's been your? I mean, when was your first game at Highbury? You say you come over in '88. When was your first game?
I've got the program nearby. I don't have it right to hand. It was against Bradford City in 1999. My daughter went to school locally, and Arsenal Football Club gave community tickets, and she said, "There's 2 tickets." Went and saw Bradford, and it would have been. Thierry Henry didn't score. I think it was a game afterwards at Southampton. He scored his first goal. So, people are going, "Oh, this guy's useless. This guy's rubbish." I was in the West Upper. I just remember just seeing it and go, "Wow, the pitch!" And I was fascinated by the away fans and the noise they make and stuff like that. And Highbury, I've got some really good memories at Highbury. I didn't go hugely. I probably went about a dozen or so times. But I do remember one time coming out, it must have been an evening kickoff, walking up the North Bank and coming out and just looking at the pitch in front of me. And I was literally messaged somebody on Twitter the other day talking about this. And I just said, you walked out and you looked at the green bays. It was like a snooker table. And it was just like, I couldn't hear a thing because you're just looking and mesmerized with the green. And then all of a sudden the noise comes in.
It had that curve in it, didn't it? It's got a little curve on the pitch.
Yeah, and then it was just the noise and the sound and the smells, and it was like, wow, Jesus. My wife was with the St. John's Ambulance locally, and she was fortunate enough to be on the balcony in 97, 98 when we won the double. And she was there with the team on the balcony at Islington Town Hall. And she was there with Dennis Bergkamp and Petit and everything else. I was stuck at home babysitting the kids.
Well, I actually... I welded the video screens up at Highbury many moons ago. What's your greatest memory, or the best event you've ever had at Highbury?
Highbury, not many, because probably Highbury, not many. Most of the Highbury games I went to were tickets that were got through friends of friends, and my brothers used to get, and it was generally Blackburn Rovers or Bolton, and it was generally Bolton beating us 2-1. Ironically, it was Kevin Nolan scored 3 goals against Arsenal in his career, one in the league at Highbury, one in the FA Cup at Highbury, and one at West Ham. I was at both the games at Highbury, and I know Kevin. I have a pint with Kevin when things are normal, and I bumped into him. I said to him, I used to go for my birthday. It was always around my birthday, and I went to him and said, I was sitting at home bored with work. This is through like the summer when the pubs were open a little, and I'd be sitting at home here, and I'd go over the weekend, and Kevin might come in, and I got a bone to pick with you. He says, "What's that?" I said, "You've always bleeping ruined my birthday." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Every bloody time." I said, "I used to get a ticket." He said, "You'd go ahead and score, wouldn't you?" And he went, "Hey, all right, Ferg."
Well, fun enough, I mean, my eldest, he's a season ticket over the Arsenal, and he was mascot in '91 when Tony Adams was banged up in Chelmsford. And Andy Linnigan was captain, and we was there. I'm walking out onto the middle of that pitch, and just looking around at the crowd. It was something I'll remember until the day I die. It was, I was really, really proud, really honoured, and I think that's probably the best time or the best day I've ever had at Highbury.
Yeah,
but I've been going over there since. Sorry.
I was sorry. Finish. Go on. You said what you were going to say.
That's probably my best time at Highbury. But I've also seen some good games there. I mean, I was there when we beat Anderlecht in the Fairs Cup. I remember, blimey, going back a few years now, when the 3-day week was on, because the miners were on strike. Yeah, in the 70s, and we played Derby County in the afternoon instead of an evening kickoff. They moved it to the afternoon game. Yeah, it was a cup game. I think we drew 0-0. But that's probably 70, 71. But my dad always took me over the Highbury.
Wasn't the 3-day week 73? I thought it was.
It may have been. I mean, I'm a bit older. My brain gets a bit, I find it hard to remember what I've done yesterday. About in the 70s. But so are you a season ticket holder?
Yeah, I'm in the North Bank. I've been the season ticket holder now. It'll be 10 seasons once this season finishes. Yeah, I love it. I don't really go to watch the football. I do watch the football. I do see the football. I enjoy every minute of it, even on a cold winter's night against Cardiff when your feet are like ice blocks standing on the North Bank, because you're with your mates. And you're taking the piss out of each other. Excuse my French, but you're taking the mick out of each other, and you've had a couple of beers. So it's occasionally I drive as well, but so you can't really have a beer. But it doesn't matter. You still have a laugh. Like best ever games I've been to. There's some of the derby games. The 5-3, the 4-2, the Liverpool 4-3. Barcelona 2-1 against Barcelona. I was in the upper tier clock, and I spent nearly £200 on a ticket for that one as a silver member.
Be careful, the wife might be listening.
She knew. The Sunderland away was a regular trip for me and my mates, and I was there when Arshavin put the assist in for Thierry Henry when he came back. I was at the FA Cup game against Leeds when the King came on, and the King is back.
Yeah, I was there. 1-0.
That was it was just nuts. It was mental. It was an awful game, and he came on and just changed.
We was in the North Bank for that game.
Yeah, I was in Clock End Upper.
Yeah.
But my favorite and most memorable game has got to be going to Wembley, expecting to get smashed by Chelsea, and walking away with the FA Cup. Honestly, it was unreal.
Yeah,
absolutely unreal.
Well,
so
I was there in '71 when we done the double, and Charlie George scored. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I think football brings people together more than probably any other sport in the world. Especially for the English or the Irish, whatever. I mean, it's the banter. I mean, I used to run a pub in North London years ago, and it was sort of half Arsenal, half Tottenham. And whenever we played them, I used to hate every one of them. I'd hate them. Didn't want to talk to them. Didn't want to drink with them. Once the game was over, everyone's back to normal.
Yep.
But for that 90 minutes, don't even come near me. Don't even look at me, or I'll bar you.
Yeah, no, to be honest,
it's all banter.
yeah, I agree. There was, funny if you talk about podcasting, and this is before video podcasting that we were doing. I was on an audio podcast. It was Arsenal Tottenham, and it was a 1-1. It was a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday. Went over to my local pub, and I sat there, me and my mate Paul. Paul's a Tottenham fan, and we just sat there together on our own, and watched the game. Shook hands before the game, shook hands after the game. Had huge amounts of alcohol. It was just unreal. We had probably about 8-9 pints. I don't know. It was like a proper session, and Paul has an insatiable appetite, and they were just pouring down really quickly. I started on Moretti, which was a mistake. I should have just stuck to the Fosters, and I would probably been okay. But I came back and I messaged the group of guys who are on our podcast panel, are the audio one. And what do you think of the game, guys? Oh, yeah. And I said, should we do a podcast? I said, you're shit face, Ferg. And I went, yeah, but should we do one? So we recorded it. And if you want to go onto Spotify or anything like that on Guns and Yellow Ribbons, it's you rent this place. You rent this place, you homeless scum. It's when Aaron Ramsey scored. I am so drunk on it. It is unreal. No professionalism whatsoever. It was just it's a good laugh.
Disgusting.
It is disgusting.
But it was good.
This.
Yeah. Well, listen, mate. I know you said 30 minutes. I'll keep you for nearly an hour. So where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Guns and Ribbons on Twitter, Guns and Yellow Ribbons on Facebook, and we are on YouTube and Guns and Yellow Ribbons and Spotify and everything else. We're generally just a podcast. It's all Arsenal related, but we do have a chat about anything. But it's purely by fans for fans. We're not in it to be mega rich. Like some of the guys have done really, really well on their various platforms and made a living at it, and I take my hat off to them and I congratulate them. That's not my objective. My objective is very similar to yourself. I like it for a release. I like it to chat to friends, and just we normally have a beer when we're doing our podcast, because we sit there and it's like four guys or four. We get some of the girls on sometimes as well, but 4 Arsenal fans sitting down the pub having a chat like we used to do when you go to the football before. You used to go down the pub, you meet for a couple of pints beforehand, or even a soft drink or whatever you wanted, and you go, oh, did you see such and such in the paper, and what do you think about this, and what do you think about that, and what do you expect the lineup's going to be? You see the lineup comes out, and then you go, oh, why are they playing him? And that's the whole premise. So if you like
we all did
sort of stuff,
on Sunday morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you like that sort of stuff, come and give us a try out.
Lovely. Funny enough, just before we do go, something my eldest, he always said to me, Dad, I don't know what to buy you for Father's Day, blah blah blah. I'll get tickets for the game. He'd say, I buy the tickets, but you buy the drinks. I think it used to cost me 3 times more than what it cost him to buy the drinks over there.
Yeah,
and going like the Cock and the Gunners and whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're all after the same thing. Before you go, give us your prediction for the North London derby.
Oh, you can never call it. I'll go 2-1 Arsenal, only because we've got to always win.
Yeah, well, I'd never bet against them anyway, no matter what. So no matter whether I have a football bet or whatever, no matter who we're playing, I'll just can't bet against them. It's just not in me.
I think we're probably in a slightly, only marginally better position than they are. They are a good squad with 2 excellent players in Son and Kane. Højdegaard is a good enforcer in the midfield. If we can get our best 11, who knows who that is? If we can get our best 11 out, then I think we can probably, as I said, 2-1 nick it. They're always tight. We've had some of the 5-3s and the 4-2s, and we've had 4-4. I was at that game, actually, the 4-4, the Harry Redknapp first game. Oh, it was my first ever North London derby that I had bought a ticket and attended at, and we were 3-2 up at half time, I think it was. And then Defoe came on. Funny enough, you're talking about Defoe. God, it's like we planned this sort of stuff, isn't it? Defoe came on, and yeah, the rest is history. It ended up being 4-4.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it, but I think the problem with us is you just never know what team's going to turn up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but hopefully we do beat them. Hopefully we finish them above them in the league. I know they've got a game in hand, but I'd rather have the points than the game in hand, to be honest.
Yeah, games in hand
so
can't do anything.
No, you can't guarantee the 3 points, and the way games are going this year, you just don't know. You know who's going to win, who isn't going to win.
The game in hand is either against Everton or Villa, so both teams are doing as well as Tottenham are.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, as long as we finish in the top sort of 8, I won't be so disappointed. If we finish outside top 8, I'll be a bit disappointed, but I still believe he can do a job for us.
No, agreed. I said at the beginning, if it's Champions League or bust for me, I don't particularly want Europa League again. I don't see us getting to be away fans for a little while, so there's no point. This season, my plan was to do 2 or 3 of the Europa League away games. Done Cologne a couple of seasons back, and it was fantastic. An away day is just it tops everything, and if you can go to Europe on it as well, it's even better. But I don't see us getting to do that quite soon. There'll be too many restrictions in for another year, I think.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm one that believes that we shouldn't be travelling abroad for any game anyway, any European game. If you want to try and contain COVID, I know it's hard on football fans and whatever, but at the end of the day, everyone's health is more important than a game of football.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to have to go see the wife.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Listen, Fergus, thank you very much. It's been really great chatting to you.
Brilliant.
Thank you for being the first one on Pod the Podder. I don't know what I'm going to get next, but I'll sort of put it out there and see who comes on. Been really great talking to you, mate.
Yeah, no, it's good.
If anybody is watching, or you do end up watching, sorry.
I'm glad you enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, I love it, mate. I love it. But I mean, obviously, we're trying to get the subscribers up. So if anybody is watching, please do like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. It'll be on Facebook and Twitter as well. So take a look. And once again, Fergus, thank you very much, mate, and hopefully talk to you soon.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.